Following West Ham's near exit from the FA Cup over the weekend, in a weekend which West Ham advanced via 2 late goals in both regular and extra time, the Premier League football is finally back at the London Stadium. West Ham United faces Watford Tuesday night in a game that sees, 1, like I say, Premier League football back, and 2, a game of much significance again for both teams. Now, West Ham did not strengthen in the transfer window, whereas Watford did to try and survive in the Premier League. And Watford actually had a busy January. Not only did they replace Claudio Ranieri with experienced Premier League manager Roy Hodgson, but they also made quite a few signings in an attempt to stay in the league. The Watford job's always difficult for any manager, given the high sacking rate, but it's a job that always has a lot of pressure, and one in which the goal seems to be survival. Watford actually played a Premier League game over the weekend, the only game to be played last weekend, which was a 0-0 draw away at Burnley in Roy Hodgson's first game in charge of the Hornets. As for West Ham, the Hammers are going to be looking to avoid 3 Premier League defeats in a row. The last 2 games were a loss to Leeds and a loss to Manchester United. So it's time for West Ham to finally get back to winning ways, and a win would see the Hammers hit that 40-point mark, i.e. survival as people call it. But where we are in the table right now, survival would be more or less guaranteed unless something mathematically drastic happened. So let me talk about Watford's season to start off with. I have to say, the ownership of Watford is something that's quite controversial. The Pozzo family, I believe they're called, they own Udinese, and there seems to be a lot of transfer business between Udinese, a club in Serie A, and Watford. The thing is with this family in charge of the club is that there is no stability in terms of the managerial position. A lot of managers keep coming in and out of the revolving door that is Watford Football Club, and this season was no different. Roy Hodgson's the 3rd manager to be appointed this season. Xisco was sacked on October the 3rd, and that came after a 1-0 away defeat to Leeds United. Claudio Ranieri replaced him. That wasn't really a good appointment for me because I don't think he's not a young manager. I don't think he's a manager that young players and hungry players can relate to. He won't get the best out of them. Ranieri joined on a 2-year contract, but he didn't even last that long. He lasted a total of 2 months and 20 days at Vicarage Road, and you can see why based on the results. Under Ranieri, Watford only won 2 games. Those were a 5-2 away win at Everton and a 4-1 home win against Manchester United. Following their last win on November 20th, that one against United, that absolute demolition, Watford then proceeded to lose 6 in a row in the league and were knocked out of the FA Cup by Leicester. Obviously, with relegation lurking, Ranieri was, you guessed it, sacked and replaced by Roy Hodgson. Hodgson is an old manager, and people think that his age is something to look down on, but I can tell you, he's been around the game for a long time, and he's a very intelligent manager. He knows the ups and downs of football. He knows the ins and outs of the game. He's managed in loads of different countries. He's built up quite an impressive CV as a result. And he's managed in many different major leagues, including Serie A and the Premier League. Hodgson is a very competent coach, although people may disagree with that. He brings experience to that Watford team. And he knows a thing or two about survival. He did it with Fulham in 2008. There's nothing to say that he can't do it with Watford. As for 3 players who are my ones to watch, it's all about the attack. First up I'm talking about is Emmanuel Dennis, who scored in the reverse fixture back in December. Dennis is a Nigerian international who was at the centre of some controversy in January because he was attempted to be called up to Africa Cup of Nations, but Watford apparently refused to let him go. and that caused some problems. He's scored 8 goals in 17 league games for Watford this season, and is actually an alright striker, I have to say. Up next is a former West Ham target who was mentioned over 2 transfer windows, and that was Joshua King, Norwegian forward who was formerly at AFC Bournemouth, where he spent a lot of his career at. He played for Bournemouth for 5.5 years. Then he moved to Everton for the latter stages of last season, where he made 11 appearances. Came down south to join Watford and scored 5 goals in 11 games so far. Quite a well-travelled player for his age as well. He's approaching 30 and has settled into the Premier League, albeit with lower teams. Also, I'm going to talk about João Pedro, who I think is a rising star in the Watford team. In the Championship, he had to find his form, but when he's come into the Premier League and he's actually given it quite a decent shot. He's still a young lad. He's only 20 years old. But he's put in some impressive performances, even if he hasn't scored a lot of goals. So it's all about attack for Watford. They actually have a decent forward line, and I wouldn't put it past them in any way. They could actually do some damage, especially with our weak defence. As for a player who played for both, our very own Craig Dawson did. Now, Dawson signed for Watford in 2019, ending what had been a 9-year stint at West Bromwich Albion. And with Watford, he tried to establish himself as a regular centre-back. He scored a total of 2 goals in 29 games for Watford in the 1920 season, and then came out on loan to West Ham United in 2020-21. He didn't make his debut for West Ham until late December 2020 in a 0-0 draw away at Southampton, in a game where he kicked Che Evans in the head. Che Adams. I got confused between him and Che Evans, sorry. He kicked Che Adams in the head. He scored his first goal in the FA Cup tie-up at Stockport, and then went on to become a starting centre-back. I was saying last season that he was like an old-fashioned centre-back in a way of his style. And I guess he put some decent performances in last season. This season he signed permanently for £2 million and has recently been starting alongside Issa Diop. As for my score prediction, it's a hard one. But I think I'll say 2-1 to West Ham to nick it. And this is a game that's going to be difficult because Watford's got a new manager. You know, they've got a little bit of a boost with having an experienced gaffer in charge. West Ham's just scraped the barrel in an FA Cup game, in a game that wouldn't really result in a lot of pride being taken. So, I'm just going to say 2-1 to West Ham with West Ham to nick it. And I don't know how, but just my thought. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Opposition Uncovered. If you liked the video, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe for more content. Take care, everybody, and I will see you all soon.